Every town has those spots, places that hold secrets. Today, we're going to talk about one of those places, right here in Woodward, Oklahoma, a building you've probably driven by 1,000 times without ever knowing the incredible stories held inside its walls.
Yeah, if you're from around Woodward, this little building is probably a familiar sight. It's just one of those places that kind of fades into the background of your day. But like so many unassuming spots, it's got a story of this profound transformation. From a place that kept people in to a sanctuary where people could finally let things out. We're talking about this exact spot. This little, round, steel-walled building. It might not look like much today, but its story starts with a global conflict and ends right in the heart of our community. So here's the first big twist. Its original purpose wasn't to be a shop or a garage or anything like that. It was built for containment, for observation, for keeping people locked in. And that right there is the heart of this whole thing. A place designed to hold people captive somehow became a place where people found a kind of freedom. The freedom to speak their truth, to grieve, and just to be heard. So how in the world did that happen? Let's trace this building's pretty remarkable journey from the middle of World War II all the way to a quiet street in Woodward. Okay, so get this. This building started its life as a guard shack tower at the World War II prisoner of war camp over in Alva, Oklahoma. When the war ended, someone hauled it all the way to Woodward to give it a totally new life. A structure literally designed to watch over prisoners of war became a quiet sanctuary for unspoken truths. But the real soul of that transformation wasn't in the steel or the concrete. It was in the man who worked inside. For decades, if you walked through that door, you were there to see Carl. And Carl's barber shop, well, it wasn't just a place to get a haircut. It was something more, an institution really, built on a foundation of silence and empathy. You can almost smell it just thinking about it, right? That classic barbershop scent. It's part nostalgia, part comfort. It's the smell of tradition, of something you can count on. And then there was the sound. It wasn't loud music or a TV blaring in the corner. It was just that steady, almost hypnotic buzz of the clippers. It was the perfect soundtrack for a place where you didn't have to say a single word if you didn't want to. And this was Carl's real gift. He didn't just listen to be polite, waiting for his turn to jump in with advice. He truly listened. He understood that most of us were not looking for answers. We're just looking for a safe place to set our burdens down for a minute. And because of that rare quality he had, this little shop became the setting for some incredibly profound moments. A quiet history was written in that chair, made up of stories just like this one. So picture the scene. A man, just raw with grief, walks into the shop. He's just buried his father. He doesn't say anything. And Carl doesn't push. He just drapes the cape, and the clippers start to buzz. And then, maybe halfway through the haircut, the silence finally breaks. The man connects it all, the smell, the sound, the feeling of being in that chair, to his dad. And he realizes that this simple, quiet ritual, this was the only time he and his quiet father ever really connected, just sitting there together in stillness. Carl's response, it's just perfect. It's not some complicated bit of therapy. It's a simple, powerful truth that completely reframes this man's entire memory of his father. Carl gave him the words his dad never could. And in that moment, this old guard tower, it became a place of healing. And that was the essence of Carl, right there. He didn't have any degrees on the wall for this kind of work. His tools were simple, just a pair of shears, a comb, and a heart that was big enough to hold the unspoken stories of half the town. He was a quiet pillar of this community. Carl's retired now, but the building is still there. And its legacy, a legacy shaped by both war and peace, it continues. There's this feeling you get that history it seeps into a place. Those steel walls that once stood watch over conflict now hold the echoes of decades of quiet confessions and shared grief and simple moments of connection. So it really makes you wonder, right? After seeing all that history, after hearing all those secrets, what would these walls finally say if they could speak? And here's the beautiful final truth of this story. The answer, it's not what you'd expect. They wouldn't speak. They wouldn't gossip or spill any secrets.
Because they learned from the best. The building's true purpose, its final transformation, was to become a vessel for listening. It didn't learn its purpose from the soldiers who built it, but from the quiet barber who gave it a heart.
What an incredible piece of local history. It just reminds us that sometimes the biggest stories are hidden in the most ordinary places. For more quiet legends from Woodward's past, go visit the source of today's explainer at woodwardshoutouts.com.